Are you sick and tired of feeling stuck in a life lacking purpose? Are you ready to finally break free, discover your true calling, and start living the fulfilling life you were born for? Yeah, let's talk about that.
Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show.
Well, hey there, folks. Brian Nichols here on the Brian Nichols Show, and thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our Cardio Miracle Studios here in lovely Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is brought to you by AMP America. We are extremely excited to be part of the AMP America family. If you're looking for some news, opinion pieces, heck, you just want to know what the heck is going on in the world today, head over to ampamerica.com. And also you can check out all of the episodes from yours truly here at the Brian Nichols Show. Plus, I write some opinion pieces over there as well. So one more time, ampamerica.com. Also, special shout out to our studio sponsor, and that is Cardio Miracle. Now, folks, I've been using Cardio Miracle now for about 7 months, and I've been saying it on every episode because it's so true. The Cardio Miracle difference is 1000% real. I've seen it for myself, and I know you'll see it for yourself too if you take part in the Cardio Miracle Challenge, and that is try it. Just try Cardio Miracle. But number one, there's 100% money back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. But you got to check out this awesome supplement because it has a secret ingredient, nitric oxide, which actually isn't so secret, but it's super impactful in terms of helping not only improve your heart health, but help better sleep at night, help improve your pump at the gym. I've seen my blood pressure drop dramatically, and that's awesome because I thought I was stuck with high blood pressure because of a family history of high blood pressure. So not only am I loving that, my doctor's loving that too. So folks, if you want to experience the Cardio Miracle difference for yourself, head to the show notes. Link is there, Cardio Miracle. Go ahead, use code TBNS at checkout. You're going to get 15% off your order. And by the way, folks, I would never put my name next to something I don't believe in. I love Cardio Miracle. I take it morning and night. I see the difference for myself. I know you will too. So one more time, briannicholsshow.com/heart. Join the tens of thousands of other folks out there who are experiencing the Cardio Miracle difference for themselves. And I promise your heart will thank you. Cardio Miracle, the best heart health supplement in the world. All right, let's talk about unlocking your true potential. And with that, we have a really exciting guest to join us today to discuss that and more. Joining us, Carol Suki. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. How are you?
I am so excited because that was the most amped intro that I've ever experienced. I feel like I'm going for a wrestling match. I feel like I'm about to enter the ring. That was amazing. Thank you, Brian.
It must be our studio sponsor, AMP America. They get us all amped up here. I don't know what it must be,
right.
But Carol, I am so excited to have you on the show. I've been doing some research into all the great work you're doing. And with that, it's getting me excited because here at the show, now we don't just talk about problems here at the show. We talk about solutions. We embrace solutions. And when you're talking to an audience of entrepreneurs, right, that's the folks out there who are seeing problems and they're bringing solutions to the table. So I'm really excited to dig into what you're having in terms of conversations with the entrepreneurs who are actually out there solving these problems we see. But first, Carol, I want to do the audience a favor, and that is let them get to know who you are first. So do us a favor. Let's kind of walk through the Carol Suki story. What's your history? Why this focus on mentorship? And also, how did you go into this world of not just helping others, but now you're at a point where you're having your own podcast, you're making a difference, and I think you're helping make the world a better place. That's just me, Carol. I'm starting things off here. Give us a little bit of a background here. What's the Carol Suki story?
Okay, so Brian, I don't know where to start. I am a mother of 4. I have just been through a lot of stuff, I would say, in my only 42 years on this earth. And I'm going to say I've made a lot of mistakes in life, and I'm kind of done with making mistakes, and I don't want anybody else making them either. I want everybody to live an abundant life because I feel like when everything feels aligned, everything, you're choosing joy, you are happy with every day, every part of your journey that is, a way to live,
Carol, what mistakes? So you mentioned you made some mistakes. What mistakes did you make? And you don't have to maybe go into the details, but I mean, there must be something that has set you on this course that you find yourself on. And I'm curious, maybe the audience is going to hear that and find some similarities in their own personal stories.
Sure. Well, I just feel like growing up in Canada, being a person of color, my background is Filipino. I was born in Canada, but I always felt like an outsider growing up. I was like, maybe was there even a handful of people of my race, to the point where people didn't even know what Filipino was back in my day. And just allowing my race to kind of be a reason to just doing jobs that, your family told you was a great job, and, maybe choosing the wrong partners in life. And I've learned a lot of lessons in my time.
Well, and let's dig into how those experiences, right? How those have helped you as you're going out and not just living your life and trying to make the best of some maybe not so great situations, but also now you're helping others. And I would love to maybe get a little more context in terms of how those different experiences, both in terms of what you personally lived through, but also what you're seeing your I guess your customers in this case, right? Which are folks who are looking for some guidance, the personal experiences that they've experienced themselves, and how those experiences plus your experiences yield a really personalized coaching and mentoring style.
Yes, I will say that my differences in life, my lessons that I've learned, really brought me strength, really brought me direction. And instead of being a person who has to learn from mistakes and lessons, I'd rather be that person who is like someone's cheerleader, someone's support, to say like, hey, I feel like this could be a better route for you, or, like just kind of be that guiding voice, like that, angel on the shoulder, who's also, kind of showing them, okay, if you're going to kind of follow the other way, this could be the consequences, because I've lived it, I've done it. And you know what I mean? You don't have to try everything. Let's try and do the things that will, set you on the right path of like happiness and joy and abundance.
I love it. Well, we had our good friend Sonia Gomez here in the show. She's talking about abundance. She has her own entity called Abundance Acres, but that's a whole different story for a different podcast. But I love that mentality, right? Of how do we create abundance, both in terms of not just the physical items, but I think also that kind of goes into the spiritual stuff, right? Is you can't fill up everybody else's cup when your cup is empty. So let's talk about that, Carol. You mentor moms, you mentor business leaders, you mentor folks who are going through spiritual awakenings. And I'm sure it's got to be tough because you're filling so many different people's cup. Carol, how do you keep your own cup filled?
Oh man, Brian, honestly, I feel like that's what I was put on this earth to do. That's what I've been doing since I was a kid, not even really realizing that it lights me up so much. I just felt like I was a grandma compared to my friends who are interested in, celebrity gossip and, what's in, what's cool, what's fashionable. I never really cared about that stuff. I was just like, but how are you? How's your family? Do you feel loved? Like that's what mattered to me. So that, little weirdo who didn't really fit in. And when I would be in social settings, I did whatever I could to just kind of like zone out, because I knew I didn't belong. It was all for a purpose, because I am wiser. I am like, sometimes I claim that grandma energy, and I'm just like, hey, I'm in my grandma energy right now. I just want to love you.
So grandma energy, I love that. Where does grandma energy come from? Where, and if you don't necessarily maybe know, I mean, do you have an idea of like, what was it you've gone through in life? Whether, it's lived experiences that have kind of helped build up this grandma energy where you kind of feel that, yeah, your years beyond your peers in terms of being able to address the stuff that actually matters.
Yeah, well, I'm super ridiculously empathic to the point that it's almost a fault. Like I could be watching like the hypest hockey game and I'll be crying at, the national anthem because I'm seeing how amped up these brute hockey players are in the ice, and I can feel their energy, like how excited they are. And then I'm thinking like their moms must be so proud. Oh my God, their kids. Like it's ridiculous.
Empathy, though, that's okay. So let's put a pin in empathy. I want to dig a little bit deeper in empathy because empathy gets a bad rap nowadays. I think so many folks hear the word empathy and they instantly connect that just with the mushy feelings. But to your point, it's much more beyond feelings. It's energy. It's knowing not just what that person's feeling, but the why they're probably feeling this way, and being able to quite literally put yourself in their shoes. Carol, let's dig a little bit deeper here. How does empathy help you when you're going out and working with folks to better understand like kind of the whys and why they do things, or what the hidden goals that maybe they themselves don't even realize that they're trying to pursue?
Well, you said it right there, because sometimes they don't realize, like you said, what they're doing, why they're doing it, but I do. You know what I mean? Like I can look at someone and I can hear the words that they're saying, but that's not resonating with me because I can feel the energy behind their words or behind their aura, and say, well, okay, you're saying this, but I know that you're actually feeling this or doing that thing because this is what you're feeling. This is the energy that I'm feeling behind the words that you're saying. And then they're like, oh, actually, yeah, you're right. You're right. I never saw it that way. So
I'm feeling this conversation's almost talking about me, because I'm very much in your shoes here, Carol. Like I'm an empath. I can feel people's energy. Like I get it. And for me, I always thought I was a weird dude because I was the one who could do this, and everybody else is like, let's go play sport ball. And I'm like, why? What can we talk about stuff that actually matters? And I was always the weird dude, right? And you get it, like grandma energy.
I get it.
And yeah, empathy though. I mean, I don't want to go away from this yet, because empathy is so missing today as one of those like I won't say competency, that's not the right word, but like it's a skill set. And some folks got it, some folks don't, but like even to understand why empathy is important, it seems that conversation's not even being had. And we seem, a lot of folks just want to yell past each other or talk past each other. Carol, like how can empathy play a role in helping eliminate some of that just like nonsensical noise?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I feel like empathy is like 2.0 of everything. I feel like when you have empathy, and especially a lot of it, you can really neutralize yourself through life and not be too affected by anything, because you understand the energy and the emotion behind someone's actions. Like whether they're terrible actions, you're like, well, there must be a reason why this person is being a terrible person. You know what I mean? Like you don't have too much hate. You're very just neutral about everything because you understand that there's a reason why things happen. And it's almost like it's a gift. It kind of like takes you a few steps ahead of understanding anything and everything.
You said something here, and I can't let it go, because you talked about when it could be good people, heck, it could be bad people, right? And understanding why they do things. There is man, this kind of like transcends into the world of politics some too, but like when we see bad people do things on a global political stage, most folks just want to point and say that's bad. But to your point, there is, with empathy, there is another role here, and that is to play the role of trying to understand the why. Now, that's not to excuse away or to justify the negative or bad actions, but rather to understand it. Now, let's make this like really contemporary, and this isn't, to start a debate on the Ukraine-Russian war, but when you look at the Russian conflict and people point at Putin and say he's an evil fascist, he's a dictator, and they're right. But Anybody who said, let's understand why Putin did what he did with Ukraine instantly got pointed at. You're a Putin apologist. You're a bad person. And it's like, no, we're trying to understand why this bad person did this action. And let's put ourselves in their shoes to better understand what decisions were they making when they're going through the decision-making tree to get to this point. Same thing when we go back to 9/11 and you look at what happened, with our overseas interventions from an American standpoint for 30, 40, 50 years at that point, and how all of a sudden we got hit with blowback. And it wasn't to excuse what happened, the horrific actions on 9/11, but rather understand why it happened, so we don't put ourselves in a situation to then find this happening again. So and maybe you don't have to give names or anything like that, but Carol, I would just love to hear from your personal coaching experience, your mentoring experience. Like when you've had a customer, a client who, I won't say they're a bad person, but maybe they've done some pretty bad things. And how do you balance the understanding that this is a bad thing that they did with the trying to help them get better? And how do you kind of bridge those two worlds with what they had done to where they're heading?
Well, I can definitely say that, first of all, I don't necessarily have any clients who have done really bad things, which is amazing. However, what I can say is I will never judge anybody on their past, especially if they're on a path of trying to be a better person, because we learn from our mistakes. Like people who are, especially in the spiritual world, for example, on an ascension journey, a spiritual awakening, it's called ascending because you're coming from the darkness. You're coming from mistakes. You're coming from lessons. You're coming from places that you didn't want to be, things you wish you never did. And so therefore it's called ascension because, they can't fix what has already happened. Same way I can't fix the mistakes that I've made or the lessons that I've learned. And would they be on an ascension path if they didn't go through the dark things that they regret, right? And so, if anything, people should be commended for wanting to do better. But I can definitely speak to that in the sense of, I must say my husband's very lucky that I am such an empath because my husband actually does suffer from narcissistic personality disorder. We have been married for almost 19 years, and just about 2.5 years ago or so, he actually was able to identify it and say, like, geez, that is me, and I can't stand myself. So that's like a whole nother episode, but yeah.
So what you're saying is you're going to have to come back on the show.
And I can bring him along too, if you'd like.
We'll need to, because that's a whole other can of worms to open. And especially when it's someone in your own life. Like in this case, it's one of the most important people in your life. So, there are so many folks out there, Carol, who I'm sure that they're hearing this and they're subconsciously or consciously now starting to put themselves in our shoes, right? They're starting to say, oh, maybe I do understand this whole empathy thing. I just never really realized it. And maybe another area that they're not aware of, but I would love for you to talk about, Carol, is this idea of manifestation, which for everybody out there, they're like, okay, woo, what's this? You're going to manifest things? Can I have $1 million? Can you manifest that? But no, that's not what it is, Carol. Give us a little bit more context. What is the idea of using I would say controlled energy, controlled focus to helping create the futures that we want to see?
Definitely, you got to walk the walk and talk the talk all at the same time.
Tell us more.
Yeah, we can't just want things and wish for things because we all do that. But you have to take aligned action towards these things that you want to manifest in your life. And of course, anything and everything is achievable, especially working on your mindset. A better mindset is really the whole foundation to that.
So you also talk a lot about spirituality, and how does spirituality play a role with empathy and energy, and how do you bring all of this together into one coherent I don't want to say remedy, but like a coherent means of addressing the complete self, mentally speaking.
Yes, I love that, because you know what? I actually claim to be a practical spirituality hustler, because really spirituality, some people hear the word and they're like, oh God, she must wear really baggy pants and sit on mountains and meditate and you know, like wear these big, you know, beaded necklaces. And like, it's, spirituality is very practical and anyone can do it. And it really is just really leaning into your own intuition, trusting yourself, trusting that there is a life that is meant for you, and leaning into that and just knowing what you deserve, going after what you want in life.
So it's one thing to focus on yourself and to put all those pieces together there, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. You're a mom, I'm a dad. All of a sudden you have this this thing called life happen, where you have these little creatures running around your house and you're like, where'd you come from? And then 9 months ago, you're like, oh, that's where you came from. But to that, right? How do we, in the world of parenting, how can we help raise good kids and instill some of these, I don't know if values is the right word, but instill some of these practices and these understandings of the stuff that's not taught in school, right, Carol? Like empathy, like, you know, understanding of how to mentally prepare yourself and to focus on the things that you actually want versus going into a classroom and having to take, you know, the same stupid 14, you know, test homework assignment every single night. Like what is the best way for us parents to convey these ideas to our kids so they can actually, I say actually, maybe, fingers crossed, avoid some of the pitfalls that you and I went through and experienced? Or am I off base here and saying maybe those things that you and I experienced, those not so great times, dare I say those sucky times, that those are actually the things that helped us become who we are today, and maybe our kids need to experience those as well?
One sentence is what I always start my conversations like this with: love your children unconditionally. That is like the whole foundation of parenting, to love your children unconditionally. People are like, okay, whatever, Carol, obviously I love my kids. They're my kids. Unconditionally is a whole nother ball game. I think you and I are in and around the same age. And if you think about parenting back in the day and days before them, there was always conditions. Yes, our parents loved us, but there were always conditions. There were always expectations, some more harsh than others. But there was always those expectations. And to love your children as they are, for who they are, guiding them, of course. It's not like, well, you know, my son wants to jump off the second story today, so I might as well let him because I love him unconditionally. It's not like that. You know, obviously we guide them and, you know, we want to keep them safe. That's our job. But otherwise, love them unconditionally. They're going to make mistakes. We guide them. And if they choose to go different, in a slightly different direction, and it's not what we expected for them or how we wanted to care for them, but they are going to learn some things, you know, the wrong way, quote unquote. But as long as we love them through it, trust me when I say, because my eldest is 21 and my youngest is 15 out of 4 kids, it helps. It really does help.
I think back to when I was a wee little lad, and for those younger folks in the audience, this might not relate to you, because now, Carol, I think it's going to relate to you. But for all the 90s babies who are out there, this is for you. 90s and 80s babies. I was with my grandma one day, and she was like my babysitter, my nanny. She's my nanny. And Nanny was bringing me to swim lessons, and then we were going to go over to her mother's house, my great grandma. And she's like, "Hey, hang out in the car. I'll be right back." Got it. And I'm sitting in the car, and curiosity gets the better of me, Carol.
Oh gosh.
And I look, and what do I see? an ashtray. Because back in the 80s and 90s, folks, remember, you could smoke in cars.
Sure.
Now, my nanny didn't smoke. She didn't smoke. But the ashtray was there. And in the ashtray, there was also that heater coil thing where you'd pop it in and it would get really red hot. And me being, 4, 5, I was like,
where did you put it?
I pumped it in and I was like, well, it's going to get hot, so I'm not going to let it get hot. I pulled it out right away. And I looked at it and it was black. And I was like, oh. Put it at my thumb. I mean, second, third degree burns instantly. I'm screaming, run inside. Like, that was a whole thing. And with that, she loved me unconditionally. Even though I was a stupid little shit, she still loved me. Now, that's just one example when I was a wee little lad. And that's not to say as I got older that I didn't continue making silly mistakes. I certainly did. You know what, Carol? I'm going to be very transparent right now. I still make mistakes. I know.
Absolutely.
I know. Like, and that's part of the journey. And I guess this is my final thoughts for today. Like, it is so hard for us to want to create. Let me actually rewind. We want our kids to have the lives that we didn't have. Yes. But I think sometimes we have to put ourselves back in the mindset of they have to live their life, have their own lived experiences to help them live the life that they need to have versus the one that we think is going to be best for them. Because we might have our own plans for our kids, but big guy upstairs, he's got way different plans for them. So Carol, before we go to your final thoughts, I do have one last question for you because you are a mentor, you are a coach, and the audience, we have, tens of thousands of folks in the audience who they're looking for some advice when it comes to taking, what we learned from today and applying it to their real lives. So what would you say is maybe one piece of advice, a principle, a mindset shift? There we go. I almost said mind shit, and that wasn't going to be good. A mindset shift. A mindset shift that would help them, maybe not overnight, but if they kept at it, they'll see the positive results. What would that be if you were to give that piece of advice today?
Trust your intuition.
Ooh, tell us more. What does that mean?
That means, sometimes when we are lost, not too sure where to go, what to do next, how to live a better life, you have the answers. Your soul, your heart already has the answers. If you understand how to tune into that, some people look to courses and to other people. How did that person do it? Let me do it like that person. No, we all have our own, plan already set out for us. And so if you can tune into what's meant for you, and you might need the assistance of someone else, like an abundance mentor, you have all the answers. You know, if you can dig deep enough, what is meant for you.
I love it. Carol, this has been great. Do us a favor as we're going towards the tail end of the episode. As I said, we do our little final thought segment. I would love for you to, as we leave today's episode, leave the audience with a nice bow on top of this episode. Just some stuff they can take away, action items that you would recommend, and also the Carol Suki podcast. Where can folks go ahead, find that if they want to maybe, get mentored by you, learn more about all the cool things you're doing? Give us all the plugs there. But yeah, final thoughts on your end, Carol.
Well, I must say, trust yourself, love yourself, never put yourself last. And what else can I say? Don't forget that you're awesome.
Yes, I love that. Where can folks find you, Carol?
CarolSuki.com, or I am also on Instagram and TikTok as Carol.Suki, which is SZUKY. Canadians say Z. I don't know if anybody knew that. And let's connect. I'm also on Facebook too.
Awesome. And then the Carol Suki podcast, Spotify, links will be in the show notes, as well as all of Carol's links. So by the way, folks, if you are watching the show, listening to the show, the entire brain, that is the Brian Nichols Show archives channel, all of that is found over at briannicholsshow.com. So if you go over to the homepage, you're going to see Carol's episode right at the very top. Click that episode. In the episode panel, you're going to see a couple things. First, you're going to see an entire transcript from today's episode. I just think that's a way easier way for folks to search keywords and stuff. But also, you're going to find Carol's bio right there below. All of her links will be there. And on the right-hand side of that column, you're going to see all of our studio sponsors. I'm going to put a pin in that and talk about our sponsors as I get towards the end of the show. But please go support Carol, support the work she's doing. And frankly, we need more Carols out there. So if this episode inspired you, it got you excited, and you want to maybe learn more, reach out to Carol. I'm sure she would love to have a conversation, kind of, pick your brain, see where you're at, and maybe there's going to be some opportunity for some synergy. Who knows? I'm all about it. So please go ahead, give Carol some love. And of course, you enjoyed today's episode, give the episode some love. Go ahead, give it a share. When you do, tag yours truly at B Nichols Liberty. You can find me over on Facebook as well as over on Twitter, I guess X.com now. And Carol, you said you're over on Instagram and Facebook, right?
Yes, and TikTok.
And TikTok. There you go. See, I'm still an old fuddy-duddy. I'm not on the TikToks yet. So we'll include those links, obviously, in the show notes as well. Now, folks, for the actual podcast / video version of the show, you're listening to us in some medium, but believe it or not, there's a lot of other different ways you can listen to the show. So if you're a podcast listener, guess what? There are video versions of the show. YouTube, Rumble, Ben Swann, Sovren. You can go to Facebook and Twitter. We have our episodes uploaded in their entirety over on those platforms as well. Just do me a favor, hit that little notification bell, like button, and of course, hit subscribe so you don't miss a single time we have an awesome conversation with guests like Carol. And then on the podcast version of the show, you can find us at your favorite podcasting platform, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, I Like Podcast Addict, wherever it is you get your podcast, hit subscribe. And also, do yourself a favor. We have over 800 episodes here of the Brian Nichols Show, going all the way back to 2018. Hit download all unplayed episodes. Don't necessarily start at episode 1. I mean, you can if you want to hear me sound like I'm a prepubescent boy. Go for it. But start out there. By the way, you want to hear the show's changed? Just listen to some of the first episodes. Whew, we have come a long way, and for the better. But with that being said, please go ahead, give a few of the episodes some love. Our episode there with Sonia Gomez, Abundance Acres, very topical. For example, those are all over there as well. I guarantee a handful should at least leave you educated, enlightened, and informed. With that being said, I did mention the Sonia Gomez episode. If you are watching us on the YouTubes, stick around. It'll be popping up right about here. And then one last thing, and that is, please, folks, if you enjoyed the episode, support the show by supporting the folks who support us, and that's our sponsors. So I teased this earlier, right? If you're on the episode page, you look to the right-hand column, you're going to see all of today's episode sponsors. So if you're listening to the podcast and you hear those commercials and you're like, where's Liquid Freedom? What's Ebles? Well, they're all right there. So we have Cardio Miracle, Liquid Freedom, Energy Tea, Ebles, CBD, BNC Technology Advisors, and more. Please go ahead, give them some love, because yes, they are the folks who help us keep the lights on. So go ahead, support them, and they are the ones who support us. It all helps in the end. So I think that's all we really have for today. It's been a great conversation, a great episode. Carol, any final words for the audience as we wrap things up today?
I just wanted to know, because you mentioned earlier that you are a new dad.
I am.
So my baby's 15 and you have a almost 1-year-old. Is that right?
Almost 1-year-old. Come March, 1 year old.
How do we rate fatherhood? 1 to 10?
10. And you know what? Here, Carol, well, because we didn't hit record beforehand, I'll end with this. If you are looking for what is life's purpose, just look in your kids' eyes. Yes. Because, and I don't know about you, Carol, but when my daughter was born and I'm holding her for the first time, and I just see that little ball of love, and you just know that she's like, it's like a brand new character in a video game. No good, no bad, just pure. And it's on us, the parents, the caretakers, the community, to help her, help our kids grow to be the next generation of leaders, and to help them make the right choices, to help them understand when they make the wrong choices, and to see, I don't know, just the wonderment as they uncover new things or learn something. It's really cool. So being a dad, 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. And now I'm not saying just go out and have kids. I mean, yeah, having kids is great. Don't just go do it to do it. But if you're looking for that thing, you've been searching from vice to project to project, habit to habit, and you just can't seem to find your purpose, your thing. I think having a kid is easily one of the best things, if not the best thing that we can do, and frankly, we're called to do. That's kind of my I guess, summary on being a dad. 10 out of 10.
I agree. That's great. I love it.
Carol, this has been a great conversation. Thank you again for joining us. And again, folks, thank you for joining us. That's all we have for you. That being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on the Brian Nichols Show for Carol Suki. We'll see you next time.